Hello and welcome to A Game of Two Halves, a sports show brought to you by third-year sports journalism students at the University of South Wales. I'm your host Lewis Sharp, and in today's show we'll be exploring football and its impact in local communities across South Wales. We'll also be joined in the studio by Alex Kingdom, a young West Ham fan, to discuss his passion for disability inclusion in football. But we start today's show with the sporting headlines, starting with football as Cardiff City were left stunned after their game away to Rotherham United was suspended just minutes into the second half due to a waterlogged pitch. The Bluebirds were leading their relegation rivals by a 1-0 thanks to an early Jadon Philogene strike. The EFL are currently reviewing the situation before deciding how or if the game should be replayed. Meanwhile, Swansea City returned to winning ways on Sunday with a huge victory against Bristol City at home. Goals from Liam Cullen and Olivier Ncham proved to make the difference in a much improved performance by Russell Martin's side. On to rugby, and Wales finished their Six Nations campaign with a 41-28 loss to France. Warren Gatland and his side will want to quickly put this tournament behind them and move on to further future competitions. And finally, onto the darts, and Gerwyn Price picked up his second win of the Premier League campaign as he won night 7 of the competition last Thursday. The Iceman beat fellow countryman Johnny Clayton in the opening match before seeing off Dimitri van den Berg and Chris Dobie. We start today's show by delving into a local community who are continuously furthering their attempts to grow grassroots sports. Alex Wallace went to Llanelli Town Hall to speak to Sports Development Councillor Sean Thomas about the various projects currently on the go with a vision of improving local sports in the town.
So in terms of what we can and can't do as well is we've currently got Llanelli the Stebeneath Park. At the minute it is grass and seen as more of an elite facility, which is excellent. We've had international matches on there where it is home with the Llanelli Reds. But to be honest, to continue the development of the local community and to make it a community pitch funded by the council, we are looking to put a 3G and a multi-sport recreational ground to enhance the opportunities that we've got around here for the local community kids. At the minute it is to the exclusive group of Llanelli Red first team, not to the academy, not to the disability, sometimes to the women, but to provide an opportunity and a home for grassroots football in Llanelli with a stand of 500 people would be, one in South Wales. There's not another 3G with 500 seats here at the minute. There is an ideal opportunity to have these youngsters in Llanelli thriving in grassroots. And when you look at the facility of Stebeneath, you would rather have someone from Llanelli playing for the Welsh team than having the Welsh team play here. So I would rather have 10 players from Llanelli representing across pan disability, the men's team, the women's team, the under-21s, under-23s here, rather than have them play here. Even though you can watch them and aspire to be in the community there, but that's why we've got the PL Kicks programme, working in the Seaside Kicks, working in the Pen y Fan Cruyff Court. In terms of the Pen y Fan Cruyff Court that recently come into fruition, I think that's an ideal piece of land space that's been used. Only to bring that is the hub of the community. It is literally the centre of that community. So to have it overlooking, you've got the 80-90 houses overlooking that piece of grass in the middle, and that's all. It is in constant use. It is taking a battering, to be quite honest, but that's what it's there for. This is what the kids are going to use. At the minute, before that, there was just a green space there, and they've got to use their initiative and things like that. But to have that there and an opportunity for them to develop on that Cruyff Court, whether it be 6 in the morning, whether it be 9 o'clock at night, with the floodlights there now, it's definitely a use for all facility, and especially it being free to use as well is a massive thing by the Town Council.
Fellow third-year student David Jones now joins us in the studio. So, Dav, how have the last 3 years impacted upon yourself?
I think for me the biggest impact is a growth in confidence, really. In first year you tend to kind of go to university, especially in a course like sports journalism, where you have to go to cover live games and record your interviews, and there tends to be a lack of confidence in approaching people, because when we were covering the Cymru Premier in first year, I'd have to go to a coach, a manager or a player after the game and approach them for interviews, and that was something that I didn't really have the confidence to do when I first joined the course, but doing more and more of it and developing as a person has seen me kind of grow as a person, like I say, and grow in confidence. So that's really helped me in second and third year, and now hopefully after university.
And for you personally, you've got quite a lot of experience now, and you've managed to even pick up some gigs that are sort of freelance paid work as well. Talk us through sort of what you do and what you enjoy about it.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. At the moment, I'm freelancing with Cardiff City with their media team, so getting the opportunity to see how a championship club runs with their media team has been brilliant. Getting to cover the women's team has been a real highlight for me, and having a big role in that sense, and then working for BBC Sport Wales as well.
Pan-disability football is slowly but surely on the rise across South Wales. A huge football festival is set to be held at Stevenheath Park in Llanelli next month, with over 100 players set to take part. Alex caught up with event organiser and pan-disability football coach Jordan Fox to find out how he got involved in his role.
I developed epilepsy when I was 18, and my son was 3 now. He's got cerebral palsy. So yeah, I want him to have something to enjoy when he grows up, as I'm a mad footballer. I love football myself, so I was hoping he'd follow in my steps in that way, and he has really. So yeah, I just wanted to help people in a similar situation. So my friend Simon Thomas was at the club. He got me in. He got me to have a chat with our chairman, Wayne Stevens. He was very supportive. He said financially he'd be able to support me with any courses if I needed them, like first aid, etc. But other than that, yeah, we've got our own sponsorship in for our kit, and we're self-sustainable ourselves. To be honest, I think it was quite easy for clubs to sponsor something like this, because it's good for them on the social media point of view, but they're really helping. It's not just, there's 11 boys having a kickabout on a Saturday. There's 11 boys who, need support, and they need something to do on a weekend or whenever. So yeah, it's quite easy, and within, I think, 2 weeks, I filled all the sponsors for that, and that's how I landed my commercial role at Llanelli, getting sponsors for the whole club. So, it has paid off, really. So we've got 2 young coaches. We've got Dan Kelly, our captain, who also has cerebral palsy. We've got Megan Jones, who plays for our ladies. Gareth Morgan is a support worker for one of our players, and they've all been amazing. Simon Thomas, then, our community hub officer, he's been the coach for, I'd say, over 35, maybe 50 years time, is it? I know he's going to be watching this, but he's never worked with people with disability, so it's about, we don't want to give terminology that's too hard for them to understand. We've got to simplify things and show them, and then they'll copy and they'll learn from that and ask questions. So it is a bit like, you've got to break it down for them, but they will get there.
A West Ham fan who is very passionate about disability inclusion in football. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about why you're so passionate about ensuring the inclusion of people with disabilities across the landscape of the sport.
I just think it's an important thing. I think we're in the UK, and football is the biggest sport in the UK. And I think no matter what background you come from, everyone, the first sport they really see is football. Even me, a wheelchair user who can't play football, I love the sport, right? And I think it's all important about not only wheelchair sports, but also the able game. And I think what we need to do is make routes for people like me to get into the sport. Obviously not physically, but there are other things we can do around the sport. I think we need to make those more available to people like me and anyone with any kind of other disability who can't play the game. And
could you talk us through sort of your match-going experience as a fan? Sort of growing up, how did you enjoy going to games and stuff, and any, problems you may have faced?
Well, I think when you're there, it's fine. I think getting tickets is always much more difficult than it needs to be. Like, for example, you can't just go on the website and book a ticket. You have to go through a ticketing office, explain disability, and do it that way, which is always, it's an issue not only within football, but in all sports and all kind of events, which I think needs to go. I think realistically, what we need to do is make things much easier for people with wheelchairs to be able to buy tickets and stuff. But once you're there, it's all fine, because the brilliant thing about football is it's a community thing, and if you're within that community, it's normally a loving experience, and people just want to see everyone be at the game. But I think the issue is in the roots of getting those first steps to actually get to the game is where the issue lies.
And could you talk us through sort of some of the clubs that you've visited and who might be sort of the most accommodating that you've experienced?
So I'd probably say the most accommodating place I've been to is Exeter, which is my hometown. They've always been great. And the only other place I've been to is Plymouth, and they were also really good as well, especially being away and stuff. But it's always been really nice, especially the lower league stuff. I can't speak for Premier League, but for the lower league stuff, obviously you kind of know people that work there, stewards and etc. So it's all kind of like a nice family feel. And I just think overall, like I say, when you actually get there on match day, it's always a great time.
And what would you say sort of needs to be done by the Premier League grounds and grounds everywhere really in terms of making football matches more accessible?
Just make it easier to book. I don't get the extra hurdle of having to call up. I understand there's logistics of maybe if you have a certain disability that needs to be explained before someone can go, absolutely have that option there. But why somebody like myself, who's very independent, can't just go on the website and book a ticket like yourself or anybody else, is baffling to me, because it doesn't need to be there. That extra hurdle having to call up to do it, it just makes it feel more inaccessible and more like, this is the reason that you say I'm a West Ham fan, but I've never seen a West Ham game. It's only because of how difficult it is to actually get a ticket and having to call up, and it just becomes a lot more faff than it needs to be to get one,
And you spoke there about being a West Ham fan. Do you hope sort of in the near future that you will be able to head down to the London Stadium?
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's the fun of it, right? And I think I'm in my third year as well here, so when I leave here I'll have much more free time. Hopefully one day I'll be able to get down there, and hopefully the experience will be just like it was down in the lower leagues, and that it'll be all kind of welcoming and very streamlined is the hope.
And have you heard of anybody that has sort of gone to the disabled section at London Stadium, and if they've had a good experience with it?
Absolutely. I have a friend who's visually impaired, and they're very good with him, and he's had a good time there. And overall, he's made sure he's been looked after, and I've heard there's a lot of options there, which I think is really important. I've heard from a lot of other Premier League clubs, especially the older venues, that actually there's not many seats. There were like 8 around the stadium. So with the newer venues, it seems like we're making an improvement there, which is exciting.
Today, to end today's show, Alex Wallace headed down to the USW Sport Park to catch up with first-year sports journalism student Jordan Jones to find out how he's benefited from the regular learning experiences as part of his studies.
Well, when we first came out to the sports park, I was quite nervous, because you meet new people, you dive right into the deep end. But upon reflection, it's been fantastic. I've absolutely loved it. You just get to watch a game. You even do photography, which is brilliant. You do a report, which you learn really quickly. You learn exactly how to do them, and it's a really good skill. And you watch the USW 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s in football, and all of them are great characters around as well. The managers are happy to speak to you. It's a really professional environment as well, which gives you the experience of just being a formal guy in and around sports venues. And then you've got your hockey, your netball, your rugby, all of those. You get to see the women's game as well, which is another brilliant thing about the sports park.
Tell me about the high performance course lunch on Monday with Sam Warburton.
So 2 days ago we went to they asked us if we wanted to go, and I put my name forward, not just because Sam Warburton was there, but there's a lot of people to network around, and we went. And again, you have to be really formal, something you would be really nervous around, but you go with Dalmy, he sorts you right out, he calms you down, and it turns out you're just speaking to professional rugby players. Justin Vernell coached Cardiff, Philippa Yarrington was there, and she's played for Wales in netball, and it's just, you get to interview them, you learn things. And I actually did the overall report on the whole thing, and I've just written it now, and it's gone straight to Expo Sport. And when they tweet it out, they mention Sam Warburton and that, and then they read your own pieces. So you've got big, high-profile people reading your pieces.
So I'm joined again by Alex Kingdom, a West Ham fan. Can you sort of explain why you support West Ham and where the love for the club started?
So essentially, As I said before, I'm from Exeter, so obviously it's difficult to keep up with a second division side and our first division side. And so I watched West Ham during lockdown. They were in really good form. I didn't really have a Premier League club. Like, my grandparents sort of support Liverpool and Manchester United. I didn't have a club that I kind of liked. And then I just loved the culture down in London, and I have friends that are around there who go to London Stadium a lot. And then, from there, their mutual support, I just kind of jumped on the bandwagon, I suppose. And from there, I've been a fan, and we've had a good couple seasons. And I think the love of the club is just kind of how humble it is. And I think there's a good energy around the club.
That's all we have time for on this edition of A Game of Two Halves. Coming up in our next show, we'll be looking at the importance of analysis in modern football, the need for funding in water polo in Wales, and the future of hockey in this country, following a historic first appearance at the World Cup. The show will also see Eloise Martin, the media officer at Pontypridd United Women, join us in the studio to speak about the importance of social media in sport. Thanks to Alex Kingdom for joining us in the studio. You can find the rest of today's episodes in full here on our YouTube channel following today's programme. I've been Lewis Sharp. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.